In this video, to mark 20 years of owning this very 2CV, we are going on a road trip from glorious mid Wales
to glamorous Birmingham.
Well, this is quite amusing. We're just starting our little journey today, and we've got stuck behind some Porsches, air-cooled friends. Oh, that's Aston Martin I note up there as well. We're all stuck behind the same tractor. Oh no, it's a truck. I think we just caught them up anyway because we're more daring. It's a lovely fleet of 911s there. They're one Aston Martin friend. Come on, out of my way. Oh, here we are, following a Toyota Estima Emina, the lower spec of the Previa type things from Japan. But it's always a pleasure to drive Ellie around mid Wales. Lovely old buildings everywhere, and roads where the 2CV really does kind of feel at home. And since the earliest days of owning this car, I've had trips to Wales in her. In 2002, we had done 11,000 miles together, which took her to 100,000 miles. And we went up to Snowdonia. I went up Snowdon on the train because I'm lazy. And that was a big adventure, one of our first big adventures, actually getting out of Birmingham. And we've certainly had an awful lot of adventures since. Been to the continent several times, but yeah, nothing's going to quite match last year's trip to Croatia. That was massive. It's quite remarkable that no car has ever survived more than a few years on my fleet, apart from this one. She's now on 219,000 miles. I refuse to confirm which bits of her. I've replaced an awful lot. She's been rebuilt twice in my time. Once in 2002, 2003, and then again 3 years ago now. She's been around the little test track at the Haynes Motor Museum. She's been around Mallory Park on her door handles. She's been up Shelsley Walsh, losing bits along the way deliberately. So yeah, I think we need some more adventures, and I'm sure we will have them. The World Meeting of 2CV Friends in 2021 is in Switzerland, and that seems like a nice place to go. In fact, we've been to Switzerland before, 10 years ago. That was an extraordinary trip as well. I think you're all the way up to Saas-Fee, where they have a village where cars are not allowed. So you have to sit at a huge multi-storey car park in the middle of the mountains while we went off and gadded about in the town. That was hard work climbing up there. I've never been this way before. Ellie's finding it hard work. Some first gear slogs going on. Very impressive wind turbines. Come on Ellie, you can do it. Yeah. 652cc, just about keeping it moving. And the roof is off. We are ready to continue. We've made it to England. We still have quite a way to go to Birmingham. We haven't even made it to Shrewsbury yet. That's about 10 miles in that other direction. So we better carry on. Before we do, this is entirely normal. This is what 2CVs do. It looks like the wheel's falling off. It isn't. You just got the built-in camber to the kingpin angle, so the wheels come over like that. I once pulled into a petrol station and it was on an angle like that. And some chap in the Land Rover said, I think you need to get your wheel bearings fixed. Nope, that's just a 2CV doing what a 2CV does. The Mercedes-Benz W124 also does a very similar thing. So now you know. We find ourselves just approaching Shrewsbury. Oh yes, and traffic jam at this junction as per. Shrewsbury is important to the story of Ellie, if only because she was first registered here in June of 1986. So 14 years she had a life before she came into my hands. I'm not sure I've ever taken her to Shrewsbury. Sadly, the dealer, I think the name lingers on, Charles Lewis, where she was sold brand new, but I don't think the site remains, which is a bit of a shame. It would have been fun to take her back. Incidentally, we just stopped for fuel and Ellie didn't really want to start again, so that starter motor issue that I thought it cleared up is apparently still apparent, but thankfully we do have a starting handle should the worst come to the worst. Well, failing that, Miss HubNut hasn't done a push start yet, so it could be fun, eh?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Come on, Gap, you're there somewhere. Go, 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 go! No car is more fun on roundabouts. Oh, we might even do some overtaking here. Speed machine! According to the speedometer, that is 70 miles an hour, but I know it isn't. About 65, I reckon we're at. And here we are joining the M6. And here we go, we are approaching the centre of Birmingham. Look at all the concrete. Very different to the rolling hills of home. This actually used to be part of my commute at one stage when I was working the north side of Birmingham, near one of the largest sewage works in Europe, and living on the south side. But this is Aston. We've got Aston University to the left hand side. I remember once seeing a Renault 4 go round this next section, rolling almost as much as a 2CV. A hint of rotunda visible in the distance, very famous 60s building. Yeah, does it feel good to be home? Remember as a child, these tunnels used to seem so long. We are right in the centre, disappearing into the QUAY. 548 metres. Maybe this is the best way to see Birmingham. It doesn't seem to have changed all that much in some ways. Right, we shall continue to Selly Oak. And we arrived. And having arrived here in Birmingham, here in Selly Oak no less, next to the magnificent Selly Oak Library. The reason I'm here is because you see that gap there? That's where Ellie was sitting the very first time I saw her, back in the year 2000. So I purchased her from my friend Bob. He used to own a building, all demolished now, just the other side of this bridge. You would drive through this section. There was another garage here as well, that's all gone, and he had some buildings just the other side. It's a shame it's all gated off. They obviously don't want us going in. There's still some development work ongoing, and over the other side is now a Sainsbury's. None of this was there before, but that's where the story began. On the 22nd of August 2000, I became the owner of this 2CV. I drove away from here for the first time. I would have gone up Healy Road there to head back to King's Heath, which is where I was living at the time. So it feels quite emotional to be back, really. I've not been to this spot for at least 13 years. My friend Bob retired around that time, 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. I came here for his retirement due. Sadly, Bob was lost to us this year. which was a real shame. He had a massive influence on my life. He fed my 2CV obsession. I would come up here every Saturday morning and we would tinker with cars and just chat, you know, like people do when they've got old cars to play with. It was an extraordinary time, and yeah, it's quite remarkable to be back. So much history here, and it's a shame that so much of that history has been bulldozed. But this used to be the A38, the Bristol Road. You could follow it all the way down to Bristol and Devon beyond. This is now been changed. This is now the B384, I think, and the A38 now goes over the other side past the new Sainsbury's. So it's just changed beyond recognition, and it's yeah, extraordinary to be back 20 years after buying this very special little motor car. And I can't tell you why I fell in love with this car. You think so many cars have come and gone over the years, probably about 70 cars in total. Most have lasted a few months. A few precious ones have lasted longer than a year. There aren't many. Honda SMX, a Citroen BX, Citroen XM, and some of the current fleet members have managed to stick around a little longer. But back then, this is the car that broke my tradition. I didn't even like Dollys. I wasn't all that keen on them. And yet, here we are, 20 years later. Not only is she still a part of my life, but I have t-shirts. This is a brand new design to mark the occasion. Because, yeah, she has become so special to me. And I still can't tell you why. Just think about this car. She has well and truly won me over. I've just remembered when I bought her, she had a gearbox leak. It was leaking oil everywhere. And back then, you didn't repair a broken gearbox. No, there was another shed a bit further along the canal. Oh, ambulance coming through. We might just let them do their thing first. Right, we'll go back to that. Like I said, there was a separate building, and there I changed the gearbox. I bought another gearbox from Bob for £20, I think it was, and spent a weekend changing the gearbox. I drove up here in Myrtle and Matiz to carry out that work. And so, yeah, it's extraordinary that I have both cars 20 years on. Quite remarkable. Right, we're going to go and see if we can find some other places that are significant to the history of me and this car. And here we are, back where I used to live. That beige house over there. So Ellie would often be parked there, or probably not there, because the owner in 46, he had a Mazda 929 estate, and if you parked outside his house, you'd find him parked right up against your bumper, because he would try and encourage you to move. And I thought this was most unfair, and he was the most unpleasant man, until one year I had to ask him to move so I could get my 2CV out, and he gave me a Model 2CV. Not sure what that's all about. But I'm just going to walk down the road slightly, because what I wanted to do was park Ellie here, but there is a Hyundai here, unfortunately, because I've got a great photo where Myrtle's parked, Myrtle and Matiz, about where that Civic is, and then I've got Ellie over here. But sadly we can't recreate that scene today. I was hoping to do something and blend the photos together. But yeah, quite a spot. Ellie used to more often live up here, because there weren't all these cars parked along here. I don't know why they're all here. The houses are at the far end of this cul-de-sac, so I would park my cars here, so they were tucked out of the way, and that went back from my first car all the way back in 1995 or 96. Yeah, some time ago. But yeah, it's just quite odd to be back where I used to live, in the 2CV I used to own and still do. So yeah, I'm quite glad I now live in Wales. I think Wales is definitely a better place to live. But there we go, that marks Ellie's anniversary, the Elliversary indeed. So we've got merchandise on the store to celebrate this magnificent occasion. I'm starting to wonder why on earth we've driven all the way to Birmingham just for this. That really is it. We're going to turn around now and go back to Wales, because that journey gets more and more pleasant along the way, rather than generally just worse and worse. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. Head to the store via hubnut.org. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/hubnut. And me and this little 2CV that I've had for 20 years, look forward to seeing you in a future video. Just before we go, I'm going to leave you a little run of highlights. Some of it will be photos, some video from 20 years of this 2CV. Farewell.
Here we go then. This is the very first photo I have of Ellie doing the gearbox change back in August 2000. Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever done such a thing, and learnt a lot. This is Myrtle parked right next to the unit while I was working away. And this is Ellie on the London to Brighton run 2001. And the next photo, also from 2001, back at Bob's again, under the bridge. That's a Subaru Impreza I bought and crashed. The following year, 2002, I took Ellie to Snowdonia. She hit 100,000 miles on that trip. So it's also a very early photo. And here again is the shot on Taylor Road in Birmingham of Ellie and Myrtle. 2002, towards the end, I stripped Ellie, that's her being towed by a Vauxhall Vectra for a restoration. It's a relative's house, rebuilding her the following year, early on. The mileage at this point, still only 101,000 miles. And yeah, a long way to go. Bob finished the rebuild for me. Here she is finished. And this is a selection of photos of Bob's. Here she is next to a 1958 Belgian-built 2CV, a Ripple bonnet, owned by my friend at the time. And there's that railway bridge again. Like I say, it formed a big part of my life. A few years later, we took Ellie to France for a gathering of Dollys. Look at that, a full lineup. And here's a little off-road clip. This is me down in Sussex somewhere. And the field we were camped in had a little play area, so we had to have a play in our 2CVs. So that's 2005. That's probably the oldest video footage I have of Ellie. Ellie, a very practical car. Here she is carrying a door when I lived in Northamptonshire. Very practical indeed. And this is her after a second restoration. No, it's the second part of the first restoration. So she's now been completely resprayed. Actually taken in Morrison's car park, Aberystwyth. Never knew I'd be living there. But 9 months later, she had a smash. I got punted into a truck. So she went back to Bob's again. But this is the only photo I have of her being masked up for painting. And Bob straightened her out again. There I'm at Gaydon at Heritage Motor Centre as it was then, doing an auto test. Back at Bob's again. This is Bob's retirement party in a lineup with some other 2CVs. And the man himself features in the next shot. There he is, crouched down with his grandson and children and wife around him. A very sad day, his last day. Poor Ellie is, yeah, she's used to being taken through the rough. So if you can just see Rachel complaining in the background because I got stuck in some mud, and perhaps that off-roading caused problems because just 2 years after she'd been resprayed, the sills rotted out completely, which was a little disappointing. This is a beautiful photo taken at a specialist called Sutton Cordina. Nick also passed away this year, a wonderful chap, and the light just lit the car beautifully while he was working on her. 2008, and we took a part in a huge rally driving all over the UK, so here we are in John O'Groats. Also did Land's End on that trip. And then 2009, I took out her original engine and dropped the spare engine in. For some reason, I then changed back when we moved to Wales, but the spare engine is the one that got rebuilt into the 652. This is Switzerland in 2010, which is remarkable. This is when we moved to Wales later in 2010, might be early 2011 at this point. And this is doing some off-roading. But we're now approaching the video part, so I shall let the videos speak for themselves. Actually, this is Nantamoch again, the same as that previous picture, just doing a bit of off-roading. Ellie Goes Green Laning is a fairly early video on the HubNut channel, and it includes these shots of Ellie in action. But we're going to return to photos, actually, so after that little bit of fun. Here she is looking very scabby in sort of 2014, going through her emo phase. And that was the year I got an MOT advisory for body corroded all over, and made me realise time was running out. By this stage, she had clocked again, so that's her 200,000th mile. But shortly after, she came off the road. That's in a neighbour's garage, because I couldn't afford to keep her on the road.
I have been truly astonished by the good people of Facebook and the 2CV world, and in fact people all over the world, people in Australia and even in Detroit. because everyone has dug in their pockets to help save this little car. Quite by accident, I seem to be crowdfunding Ellie the 2CV's restoration. This is a 2CV I've owned for 16 years, so she does mean quite a lot to me, and it means an awful lot to me, but people care enough to give some money up for that. Obviously I'll be documenting the rebuild of this car over the coming months, and yeah, I really cannot say thank you enough.
This is it then. I am transporting the 2CV's body shell up to Bradford for the next stage of Project Ellie.
I'm here at a workshop up in Bradford, in Yorkshire, trying to find my Citroen 2CV. How is the project going? Oh my indeed.
This is it! I'm driving my 2CV on the road and she's behaving! It's very windy, so I'm getting blown all over the place. But this is it. I am 2CV. It's been a long old slog, but we've done it. Ellie is back on the road. Thanks to your help. Thanks to you watching the videos and leaving lovely comments, inspiring me to crack on. Ah, best feeling ever. Bugger. A bit more airborne than I was expecting. Oh, sorry, Ellie. We may have just lost a fog light. Oh.
In this video, we fix an oil leak by replacing pretty much everything.
Right, it's another glorious day in an Aldi car park. Another Aldi breakfast here in Passau. So let's just have a quick recap. We were in Croatia. I wonder where we were in Croatia. Oh yes, we were just very close to the Slovenian border here in Zagreb. So I drove up to Lake Balaton in Hungary, as you can see, a very big lake. And then from there drove up to Vienna, stopped the night in Vienna. Then yesterday I tried to do this drive, but it didn't go very well because roads were closed everywhere. Over to Passau, which is just over the border in Germany there.
Trying to go for a VMAX attempt, but people are getting in the way. Oh, we're on the stop on the speedometer. 76. 78. The stop's actually snapped off on the speedometer, but I don't think the needle wants to go any further. No, 78 seems to be all we're going to get. Oh,
70 to 80. We've hit 80. Oh, briefly.